Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the greatest print-on-demand podcast on the interwebs. This is the Sales on Demand Show, episode 118. Guess what? Today we're going to be talking more about home sublimation. So I've titled today's episode, Building Your Own Print Shop. So I know this is a little bit more unique. This is not one of those sort of beginner things. This is a really radically different topic, but I wanted to kind of just share with you what I've been doing and how it's been working, and some of the details about what I'm doing to build sort of my own print shop in my own house. But of course, first, make sure that you join my boot camp. I talk about print on demand. I live, eat, and sleep print on demand. I literally dream about it, and you can pick my brain by joining the boot camp, salesondemandshow.com/start. You get 5 free videos, and you also get an opportunity to join my private coaching program, where I actually have a Facebook group where you can ask questions and talk about things that you're going through. I give advice, I give tips, hints, and I also have an entire course of videos that'll get you going with your print-on-demand business. So, go ahead and do that. Love to see you guys in my private Facebook group. But I just wanted to share a few little updates on business because some really cool stuff I've been doing lately. Just more progress to building an empire, a print-on-demand empire. So I finally got brand registered on Amazon. So this was something I probably should have looked at a while ago, but I didn't really know the benefits of it, so I just kind of, heard about it, and then I thought, whatever. Didn't really think about it, didn't see it as being necessary. But I am brand registered now, so the process was simple, but it was fairly pricey. I think it cost me about, it wasn't quite $2,000, but it was pretty close to $2,000. And I did pay a company to do it. I'm probably going to brand register in Canada as well, because I want to start scaling up my Canada Amazon account. The main reason for that being that I've pretty much maxed out what I can do on Amazon.com. So it's kind of a pain. Amazon this year is limiting me to 1,000 units of FBA, which is really, it's almost nothing. It's just 1,000 units of FBA, and I think the last date to get them into in stock is going to be November 1st. So 1,000 units has to last me from November 1st to basically the beginning of January. I can sell more than 1,000 units probably in half that time. So that's going to be a bit of a limitation. So my strategy is not to necessarily try and get more. I mean, Amazon's not going to give me more space, so I already know that. But my plan is to expand to Amazon Canada, because I know that Canada is a very untapped market, and now I'm sitting literally in Canada, ready to go here. I think I have a unique sort of position to do this, so I'm going to talk about how I'm going to do this a little bit. I'm going to give you some of the practical tips on how to basically build your own print shop in your house, or maybe if you rent a small building or a little shop or something like that. Also, of course, life is getting busy, but government has again enacted more restrictions here. But this time, you can avoid the restrictions if you have a vaccine passport. Now, I am fully vaccinated, but I will not be showing a paper, a QR code, or any kind of proof of vaccination to anybody. Except for one thing, I have to show it to get on an airplane and to get back into Canada. So that's it. There's no way to avoid that. I knew that was going to be an issue for international travel, so I know that's going to be something. I'm flying down to Florida in October to visit a whole bunch of cool people, and I'm probably going to have to show some kind of proof of vaccination. But I'm not going to show my papers to get into a restaurant. I'm just not going to do it. And if it means that I don't go to a restaurant, then fine. fine, I'll live a second class life, but I'm not complying with these regulations, and I'm not wearing a mask. I'm done. I'm vaccinated. That's the best you're going to get from me. So anyway, these things, this is an ongoing issue, and it's just been a real thorn in my side, but I'm just choosing to let it kind of slip by me. I'm going to be a rock in the stream. I'm not going to let these things bother me or grind me down. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to take whatever precautions I think are necessary for me. For me, that meant going out and getting vaccinated, because I thought, well, I'd rather not get super sick with COVID. I know that it's more serious than the flu. I'm 40 now, and I'm kind of at like that line where, the flu and COVID are kind of fighting for who's worse. And when I get the flu, I get hammered with the flu. So I was like, I really don't want that. I'm expecting to get COVID at some point. I just know it's going to happen. I'm basically like a magnet for diseases of all kinds. So when I get it, then I'll have really good immunity, like natural immunity, which lasts basically, as far as we know, it could be permanent. There's no really way to tell because COVID's only been around for 2 years, but, it's looking like immunity from natural infection is like long, long lasting. So, let's get into this. Sales to date on Amazon and Etsy have been pretty decent. Not as good as they were last year, but still holding up pretty steady. Of course, I talked about FBA on Amazon and how they've kind of limited me to the number of units that I can send in. And I'd really love to look into, sending some products to other marketplaces, other than Canada and the United States. So if you live in Australia, if you live in the UK, this is something that you should look into. Doing FBA with mugs and other printable products and shipping them directly to the FBA warehouses where you live. I think the competition is going to be quite a bit less, and you may be able to ship more units. It looks like FBA in the United States is kind of being throttled. Amazon changes the rules all the time. So, of course, it's Amazon's playground, right? So we have to play in their playground. And if they say, well, we're only letting you send in 1,000 units, that kind of limits how much success we can have with FBA on Amazon. So, kind of a pain, but there are ways around this. And the best way is to expand to other marketplaces. And honestly, I think that putting all of your eggs in the Amazon United States basket is really not a great idea. I've been thinking for a while that I need to expand to Japan, obviously to Canada, and if I can find, some kind of supplier in Australia, that would be a great one too. So this is an opportunity maybe for us to build a network of suppliers, small suppliers that can help us get our products out to other places. So I'm not quite at the point where I can print products for other people. I'm still working on, perfecting it for myself. And of course, I'm the only employee, so I basically have to do everything myself. But I thought I'd talk about what I've been doing and how much money I'm investing and basically how it's going so far. All right, so equipment. Let's hit equipment first and talk about that, because this is the one that's really gonna, this trips people up. Oftentimes people will maybe go on Amazon and they'll look at, the mug presses and stuff like that on Amazon. Don't even bother. You will not find anything of good quality on Amazon, which sucks because, you would think that even the high quality equipment dealers would be selling their products on Amazon, but they're not. The truth is that if you want a good quality mug press or a t-shirt press or something like that, it's going to cost you, and you're going to pay, but it's going to be a good quality product. So if you get the best, it's going to last you forever. But if you buy something that is just, built by the lowest bidder, as maybe we could put it that way, it's not going to last you. And this isn't a hobby, right? You're going to be probably pressing hundreds and hundreds of mugs. So you need equipment that is going to stand up to that kind of use. And I got to say, the equipment that I've purchased is holding up really well. So I'm going to give you a list of the equipment that I bought, how much it cost me, and basically where I found it. So I have 3 mug presses now, which one of them is a double mug press. So I can press 2 mugs at a time. Now, the process for printing a mug is well, call it 2-fold, 3-fold, I guess. There's 2 or 3 steps depending on how you break it down. So first, of course, you print out a sublimation print on special sublimation paper. So I have a SG, I believe it's an SG 500. It's a special printer that only does sublimation. It was $800 Canadian to buy this. I believe you can buy it for something like, $500 or $600 US. So it's not really that bad, and it's a really good printer. It doesn't print really fast, but it does a very good job. And, it's a Sawgrass brand. So it is the top-of-the-line brand of sublimation printers. Now, you can get a Sawgrass printer that's slightly larger than the one I've got. I believe it's got a double tray. So if you're really looking into going hard with sublimation, you may want to get the double tray, but I didn't see that as being necessary, and it really wasn't for me. I'm pretty happy with what I've got here, and this is a printer that's going to last me 10 years, easily 10 years. It was a good investment. So I don't recommend converting a regular inkjet printer into a sublimation printer. It's just not the best way to do it. You will spend so much time dealing with like clogged jets and all kinds of stupid things like that. So maybe you'll save half of the money. Maybe you'll pay $300 instead of $600, but the end result will be more aggravation and a very not lasting product. So recommend you get the best printer. There's a few other types of printers that are made for sublimation, and they have special like cleaning things, like they're just built for sublimation ink, which is different than regular, inkjet ink. So I've got the Sawgrass, and I also have a Galaxy press, so a mug press. So there's basically 2 steps. You print out the sublimation paper, you tape it on the mug, and you put it in the press. And when you put it in the press heats up. So there's a little silicone grip that goes around it, and you close it, just like you would close the lid of a, some kind of box or something like that, and it locks the mug in place, and then it heats it up, and it basically turns the ink into a gas, and it infuses that ink into the surface of the mug, creating a basically permanent surface that you can't scratch it off, you can't wash it out. It is permanently in the mug surface, so you can put them in the dishwasher, the microwave. It's basically like a tattoo on the mug. It's as permanent as a tattoo, and it's basically it can't be worn off or away, and it's full color, really, really high quality color. So yeah, that's what the mug press does. So the first one I bought cost me, I think, about $800 Canadian. It's probably going to be about $600 US. And it was a Galaxy press, so it does 1 mug at a time. And it has all kinds of adjustable options on it. Really good quality product. Came with a bunch of different sizes of press, so I can do, differently shaped mugs. I can do the latte style mugs, which are kind of tapered from top to bottom. I can do larger 15-ounce mugs. And I did buy a couple of boxes of 15-ounce mugs, so I'm looking forward to giving those a try here. So that was a good quality piece of equipment, and it's lasted me a while. I probably pressed about, 500-600 mugs on that Galaxy press, and it's still going strong. I don't see any indications that I need to replace the heat surface, but if I need to, I can. I can simply go and buy the clamp part, and you just unplug it, pull it out, and replace it. So it's infinitely renewable. The base unit will never wear out. It's just, it has all the electronics in it. It's just the part that actually grips the mug will eventually wear out, and I'll have to get a new one. But that's probably going to be maybe $70, $80 for that, and that's not too bad. I also have a Cricut, And I used to call this cry cut, but it's actually pronounced cricket. So it's it almost looks like it just looks like a toaster kind of, and it sits on there, and instead of putting the mug in sideways, you put it in top to bottom. So I saw this, and I saw some reviews for this, and I thought I would try it out. And the problem with the Cricut is that it doesn't give you as many, you can't adjust the settings on it as easily. So unlike the Galaxy Press where you can just change, the heat, you can change the time, you can adjust a whole bunch of features on it. The Cricut, you have to kind of play around with it to get the settings adjusted, and it's a little bit more of a pain. So it is doable, though. I think you can change the settings. And what really caught my attention was that it just has a lot of really good reviews, which is, interesting because it's not very expensive. This one cost me $300 Canadian, and I think there are some places selling this. I think I've seen it for $99 as a special deal. And now, normally, I wouldn't recommend buying a $99 Sublimation press, but this one looks to be pretty decent quality. And I told myself, I'm not going to treat this press any less aggressively than I treat my normal press. So I'm just going to start pressing mugs in this thing one after the other, and we'll see how it does. So I think I've probably pressed 20 mugs in it so far, and it looks like it's holding up pretty strong. We'll see how long it lasts. I don't know how long this press will last. I don't know if it's repairable, once the surface that squeezes the mug, hopefully that's replaceable, because, it'd be kind of a shame to just throw it away, but we'll see how things go. It looks like it's doing a good job, though. It's producing good results, so that makes me happy. Results matter, and of course I want my products to look good, but I also want my equipment to last for a long time. So the next thing that I bought was a double press from Geonite. Now this thing was a beast. It came in a box that was you could fit, an entire human in this thing I'm not going to carry on with that thought because it's kind of silly. But it's a huge box, and it was very heavy. But it does do double mug pressing, so you can put 2 mugs in it, and you can press them both at the same time. So I had to play with the settings a little bit, and I'm going to have to do some adjustments on it. But it does look like a very good piece of equipment, and it does look like it's going to last for a long time. And this thing is a beast. And it did cost me $2,000. It actually was $2,100. So I think that's going to probably run you about $1,600 to $1,800 US. So it is like a top of the line Cadillac for, mug pressing. But, it's designed to be basically used over and over and over again. It's built like a tank. The levers are really, really robust. The whole thing just feels like it's just overbuilt, kind of like driving a Mercedes-Benz. If you know what I'm saying. Never actually drove a Mercedes-Benz, so I'll just take someone's word for it that they're built a little bit better. But what I've heard is that they're built like a tank, heavy, but they're also very durable. So those are the 3 mug presses that I have, but it does give me the ability to press 4 mugs at a time. And I'm finding that what speeds me or what slows me down the most is the actual mug pressing part, and the packaging part is what slows me down. So my goal is to be able to print an entire box of mugs in an hour, from beginning to end, printing out the designs, going downstairs, and putting the sublimation paper on the mugs, and then doing the whole thing. My goal is to get that down to an hour per box, because that would be ideal in terms of my time. That would be the most efficient return on investment, basically. Up until this point, it's basically been taking like 2.5 hours to print a box. That's way too long. I just can't spare that much time. So I'm like, I got to get this down. I got to get this down to less than an hour per box. And in a perfect world, it would be like half an hour box. But, between 45 minutes to an hour per box of mugs would be really fantastic. So I'm getting pretty close to that. And what really speeds up the process is I was using boxes that you had to fold and tape. So I was using a 4-inch box, and I'd have to tape the bottom. So I had to fold the sides in, put some tape around the bottom, and kind of like smear it on there with my hands to keep the tape on, because otherwise it kind of comes off. That was annoying. And also a 4-inch box for an 11-ounce mug is just too small. You can't put enough protection in there. So you have to use bubble wrap to protect the mug. So I was using bubble wrap, but you just can't get enough on there. And if you put too much in the box, it doesn't close properly. So I was shipping like bulging boxes to Amazon. And, it wasn't too bad. I wasn't getting a lot of breakage, but I was definitely getting some breakage. And I did do a drop test. The packaging that I was using for the mugs, dropping it straight from about 7 or 8 feet to a concrete floor, that, they would break. I could drop it 4 feet and it wouldn't break. But anything more than 4 feet, and it was like, you could hear the mug just shatter. Either the handle would shatter, or, the entire thing would just turn into powder. And I'm like, well, hopefully Amazon isn't dropping it from 8 feet onto a concrete floor, because this is the best I can do for packaging at the time. But now I've upgraded my packaging. And the difficulty of upgrading your packaging is that you also have to upgrade the box that you ship in. So I had a whole bunch of boxes that were sized for the smaller 4-inch, package. And I had to basically just resize and get a new box that would fit the new packaging that I'm using. So I'm using basically like a 5.5-inch square box now. And I also have 15-ounce mugs. So the beauty, I think, of that is that this box is going to handle both sizes of those mugs, and I can ship them in the same box, no matter what size it is. So I did a drop test. I'm basically using about 2.5 feet of bubble wrap for each mug. And I pack it in the box, and I took it and I lifted it up to the ceiling over top of my cement floor, and I'm like, all right, let's see how it goes. And I dropped it probably 4 or 5 times, and nothing. It didn't break at all. So I'm very impressed about that. Now, here's what the important part is for me, is speeding this up, right? I'm actually willing to spend a little bit more money to get a faster result, because for me, time is money. I'm not necessarily running out of money. I'm running out of time. And the whole reason that I wanted to sublimate at home is that I can do it a little bit faster. Now, I don't know if that's actually happening here, because my time is now worth quite a bit of money, right? An hour for me is worth almost $100 in terms of, doing this, that, or something else. So I'm kind of at the max of my time. So I don't think I'm quite getting $100 worth of value out of each hour of sublimation. But I guess at some point I could probably turn this over to an employee and pay them like $25 an hour to do this, and I could probably make it worthwhile for myself. Plus, shipping to Amazon Canada is only possible if you live in Canada. I mean, it is possible otherwise, but it's not economical. If you were shipping from the United States to Canada, I don't think you could do it very economically. You would pay too much money to ship across the border, and it would just be too complex. So shipping from inside Canada saves me all of that hassle. I don't have to pay tariffs. I just put the product in a box and just boom, there it goes, off to Amazon Canada. And that's good enough. So I talked about equipment, and we've talked a little bit about packaging. Let's talk about how much space you're going to have to devote to this endeavor. So if you want to build your own print shop, you're going to need a full room. But you know what? You probably won't need much more than a room of your house to do this. And there are benefits to using a room of your house, believe it or not. So I'm going to articulate the benefits of doing this in your home. So number one, it's kind of fun. You know, honestly, I enjoy printing from home. I know that it's work, but it just feels more authentic, right? I'm actually touching the products that I'm shipping out. Now, I don't do this for regular print-on-demand sales for Etsy or anything like this. I'm only doing this for Amazon FBA. But I kind of enjoy it. So my goal is to have some branded packaging and to really get some branding going with my products so that I can distinguish myself in the marketplace from other sellers. I think that's a good goal to have. You know, when you build your own brand, it becomes worth a little bit more than if you just had unbranded products that you're selling that just look like everybody else's. You know, it just means more to the customer. And then they will, you know, pay attention to your brand. You can get them on an email list. You can remarket to them. There's a lot of benefits to doing this. So I've been looking at, you know, these benefits and saying that I have to make this work for me. And I think this is the way to do it. However, you're going to devote a lot of space to this. So you're going to need an entire room. Now, I use my office for basically doing office work, and I don't have enough room in here for the sublimation equipment. And I think it would get too stuffy in here because the mug sublimation presses, they put out a decent amount of heat, and my office does get pretty hot in the summertime because we don't have air conditioning. So it's a little bit too much to do it in here, and there's just not enough space for all of the mugs and everything. So if you have a home office that's a decent size, you might be able to repurpose that for sublimation, but be prepared to devote like a significant amount of space to all of the packaging, depending on how much you buy at a time. So previous to basically a week ago, I was buying maybe 10 boxes of mugs at a time. And 10 boxes, you can stack it up in like 2 or 3 feet on the floor. It doesn't take up a lot of space because you can stack them pretty high. So I just went out and I bought 1,800 blank mugs because why not, right? You get a decent deal, and I just kept running out, and I have to drive the truck and pick them up, and so I decided to just save myself a lot of effort and buy a whole bunch of mugs at the same time, along with this extra mug press and a few other things as well. And I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with my purchase, but it does take a lot of space. So I've basically got an entire wall of my garage that is basically a mug storage area. It actually didn't take up as much space as I thought. I thought it was going to take up like a third of the garage, but it's not too bad. It's not insignificant, but it's not too bad. And it's an entire pallet of mugs, or an entire case of mugs. I don't know. But they have a pallet pricing for mugs, and they gave me the pallet pricing, and I got 50 boxes. So that was, in my opinion, a pretty good deal. But yeah, it's going to take up a lot of space, and all of the mug presses are going to take up space, and you're going to need workspace. You know, when you're standing there working with the mugs, putting the labels and stuff on them, you need space to, move them from side to side. So you're going to need at least, a counter space, probably like 5 or 6 feet wide and 2.5 feet deep. And that's basically the minimum of workspace that you need to manage mugs in any kind of real number, right? You can do 1 or 2 in a small space, but once you get to, 10 or 20 mugs at a time, you're going to be taking up a lot of space. You got to have the packaging sitting there. So you're going to need, some small tables. You're going to need counter space that you can just use. Counter space that can get burned and hot and gouged and stuff. You don't have to worry about it. So, I recommend doing it basically in your basement or in your garage. That seems to be, in my opinion, a pretty good place to to devote to this kind of thing, because you can just basically leave the sublimation equipment sitting there and you don't have to put it away every time, because you don't want to be moving that stuff around. It's really, really heavy. The mug presses are heavy, the printer's heavy, the boxes of mugs are heavy. So yeah, everything's heavy. And especially when you got a full box of printed mugs, that's heavy too. So space is going to be an issue. If you live in an apartment, this might not be something that you're going to be doing with your time. If you have an entire house, you could probably just take a room or part of your basement, if you have a basement, or your garage, a section of your garage. You'll probably be able to just like clear it out, use it for your space, and make that work pretty good. Now let's talk about the logistics of shipping and packaging, because this is another thing that you got to worry about that you don't have to worry about if you are just doing print on demand using GearBubble or Printify or Printful or some other supplier that does all the work for you. So the logistics of printing and packaging, this is a challenge that most people don't think about, and you're getting into like a real business here. But the reason I love talking about this is that, you have control over your supply. When you bring your stuff in-house, you can control, how it's printed, the quality. You can start branding it. I think this is a really good way to start building a large and very profitable business, is by bringing your stuff in-house. So this is my goal from the very beginning. I wanted to build this into a real business, not just like a hobby. I'm not interested in running a hobby here. I want to make real money, and I want to have something of value. And I thought maybe I'd like to employ some of my family members as well. Thought that would be kind of cool. Maybe my kids, maybe my wife if she's, wants some extra money or something like that. But of course, shipping and packaging. So I've been using 5.5-inch boxes, and that seems to work really well. And it does use quite a bit of bubble wrap. I'm not a huge fan of bubble wrap because it's just, it's plastic. I'm just not a fan of plastic. And of course, I know that it just gets thrown away as soon as it arrives at the destination, which kind of annoys me, right? I'm not an eco-maniac, but I don't want more trash. So I am working on some thoughts on how to basically package a product safely without using a whole bunch of plastic, and also while doing it quickly. So I'm still working on that, but for the meantime, I am using bubble wrap and cardboard boxes, which is probably a decent compromise. There's no styrofoam in it, so it's not too bad. I really don't like styrofoam. Recycled styrofoam is fine, but I don't like just making styrofoam because it just never breaks down. And again, I don't like the idea of all this trash from selling products to people. I'd like to minimize the trash as much as possible, or make it biodegradable trash. So I'm coming up with ways to do that, and also, you could use that as a selling feature of your product, that it's eco-friendly. People actually care about that kind of stuff, and I think we should. Having a bunch of trash everywhere is just not a good way to run a society. So I'm kind of working through the logistics of that, but for the time being, bubble wrap is easy to get. It's pretty cheap. You can use quite a bit of it to protect your product, and the more you use, the more protected it is. So, I'm only using about 50 cents worth of bubble wrap in each mug, but it does protect it quite nicely. But yeah, you have to be able to source those boxes out. And sourcing all of these supplies does get to be quite a bit of work. So be prepared to start developing some processes and finding some suppliers that can basically supply you with the size of boxes that you need. You may have to experiment with different packaging materials, depending on what your goal for your products is, whether you want them to just be well protected or really well branded with some special, branding on logos on it or something like that. You can get printed boxes too. So I'm still working through the logistics of that on my end, but I've got a pretty good system going right now where, I fold the box and I just put it aside, and then when the mug is ready to go, I pop it in there. And the goal is to just decrease the time. All right, so I thought I would bring up a few cool things that are going to be future topics that I hope to get into, and one of those is white toner printing. So basically with mug sublimation, you have to have a white mug. You can't sublimate on a black mug, or at least not really easily. I've tried it. You know, you can get mugs that are mostly black but have a white patch on them. It's really difficult to make that look good. It's really difficult to do that. So my alternative would be to use a special white toner that you can buy. And basically all you have to do is just buy a black mug. It doesn't even have to be a sublimation mug. It could just be a black mug. And you can also do it on beer, like colored glass or clear glass. So white toner printing is a cool, different kind of technology. It still relies on the heat to actually sublimate, or not sublimate, but like to press to the product itself. So I can use the same equipment to do the same work, but I would like to get into white toner printing because black mugs sell really well on Amazon, and I'd like to get into more black mugs. I think they look really unique and distinct. They look really sharp, and you could kind of rise above the crowd by doing black mugs. And I'd also like to look into UV printing for tumblers and other types of products like that. UV printers are really expensive though, like over $10,000 expensive. So when we're talking about expensive equipment, I've just barely scratched the surface of what you can do. Spending $5,000 on equipment isn't really that impressive when you think about how much some of this stuff does cost. You can buy printers that will print huge sheets of sublimation, papers, and they're really expensive, like $20,000 for a printer. And of course, the maintenance would probably be even more than that. So, we're talking about large scale investments here that gets a little bit above the hobby shop or the side business kind of model that I've always sort of pursued. But, if you're going to go big, then go big, right? Go big or go home. That's what some people say. I'm kind of going, medium big, trying not to expand beyond my reach. But I do want to make a lot of money with this. And I think you need to take some risks and spend some money to start doing that. All right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode. And I'd love to see you guys in my private coaching group. So check it out, salesondemandshow.com/start. Get that free video and join my email list. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.